Hello, welcome to day 2 of learning to photograph your products. I wanted to start the day by just checking in and seeing if anyone has questions. Or anything that came up last night that you wanted to share or discuss. Just go ahead and place that in the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and start my screen sharing while those questions are going into the chat. And again, if everyone can just post in the chat where you're coming from and what you're hoping to get out of today's session. Hello, Lydia. Hello, Ruby. Barb. Awesome. Thank you. Now I know that y'all are there. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into day 1 because I have a lot to cover, and I'm going to do my very best to honor time and not keep not go past 2 o'clock, and also talk slowly. I have a tendency to take a fire hose approach to information because I want to share everything that I can possibly share. And oftentimes that's just too much. So I'm going to try to slow it down and get you some really great information to help you with your photography process today. So we're going to do a quick little review. Then I'm going to just jump right into the live photo session. And I just grabbed some random stuff that I have. Some of it's my work, some of it's things that I purchased from other people. I did not get any clothes or 2D or 3D. Oh, no, I did. I grabbed a couple of 3D items just so we can have a lot of different perspectives. In the photo session, I'm going to show you some of the equipment that I use, and really that's the most valuable part. And then maybe looking at the setup, because no matter what list or what information that you receive, your list of items is going to be different. So if you're someone who makes earrings and that's your primary item that you're photographing, your setup is going to look very different from somebody who's doing glass work or even like making clothes, things like that. So just take this as a checklist of items to consider for your photography toolkit, and we'll go from there. And if you have questions like, hey, I need to, photograph large quilts or, big murals, things like that, I'll do my best to answer like an approach that I would take. And just also keep in mind that this is not set in stone. Like some of the settings on the camera are very scientific based on light metering and shadows and the direction of light and all that stuff. But for the most part, what we're looking at is, I think this will look really cool. Let me try it. We photograph it and maybe it looks amazing and maybe we need to take another approach. So this isn't a hard and fast science. It's very subjective to the individual and what we're trying to portray as the artist. So after I take some photos of items, I'm going to take those photos and pull them into the editing programs that I use on my phone. I'm gonna stick with what I use on my phone, and then I'll show you different editing applications for removing backgrounds. And there was a question posed that, what do we do when we have a model and we want to put a different pair of earrings on them, or a different necklace, or a different shirt or something like that. So I'm going to show you an approach to doing that. There's Photoshop, there's other applications that you can do that as well. And then, it's just editing and learning some tips. And then I'm going to do a quick little Canva demo. There is a ton in Canva. If you've not heard of Canva, your world will be shifting today. Canva is a fantastic software application that you can use on your phone and on your computer. There is a free version that is really functional, but the paid version will eliminate the need for a lot of the other apps that we might have on our phones for editing photos, or creating posts on social media, or removing backgrounds and all that awesomeness. And then we're going to round it out with a Q&A session. So again, if you have questions while I'm talking, please put those in the Q&A section or in the chat, and I will do my best to check in with those randomly to answer any questions as we're moving along, so that the questions don't sit for too long. All right, I'm just going to pop in. Hello. I'm Lydia. I'm staging my products for professional looking photos. Hi, Big Pine. Yay, okay. So Ruby, I see, are you doing that right now? Have you? And also remind me what your art is. Is it the crochet needlework stuff? Anyway, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on. So the review from day one, we covered the basics of photography, the exposure triangle, understanding aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. We also went over a little bit about your smartphones and the different ways to control those parts of the imagery using your smartphone. We talked about identifying what your subject matter is. What are you photographing? Today I'm photographing a wide range of items. I'm sadly not doing any 2D work, so not shooting any like photos of paintings or anything like that. That could be a whole workshop in and of itself, but I will offer up some tips if we have any 2D artists in here. Okay, perfect. Edge here. Excellent. And then also we talked about preparing for the shoot. And are there any questions about what we covered yesterday? Embroidered hand towels, hats, and still working on the other items to sell. Awesome. So embroidery, love it. And taking pictures of etched mirrors and etched glass. Whew. Okay, Amanda, you are challenging my skill set. Mirrors and glass is a little easier, sort of, than mirrors. But we can definitely look at some tips. I may have to get with you to do a little bit of research on that approach, so I can actually share it with you in a way that will be effective for you and useful. But I'll see what I can come up with today. A lot of it is like what's behind and things like that. So I know I've done some photos of etched glass. Never mirrors, but glasses is a challenge. And it also depends on what it is. Okay, so awesome. So let's go ahead and jump in to the photos, the live shoot. So these are images. So the two on the top, this is a setup so my son's bedroom has the best light in my apartment. And so I tend to shoot in windows with natural light as much as possible. But if that's not available, you know, you can use artificial lights. Ring lights are very popular and they're a great light source. But I just wanted to show you, like on the left-hand side, that's where I'm using my pop-up light box. And you can see how bright the light is coming in behind the subject matter. I'm also a big fan of using white or black 3-ring binders to place the items on. I personally like a little bit of the reflection that the 3-ring binders provide. So I get the glossy ones. You can also get the matte binders. The other thing that I like is you can like change the angle of the binder so that things will sit better on in the image and it'll be easier to photograph. So on the left hand, you can see like all my kiddos' chaos on the right side and left side. And no means did I like have this super beautiful like photo studio only. Like if someone were to come and write an article about my process, they'd be like, we need to stage some stuff because this is not attractive. But I share this only because I want us to feel like this is very approachable. We don't have to have super fancy setups. We don't have to have super fancy equipment. We can take really impactful images just with the right-hand setup where I don't use the light box. All that is poster board, the 3-ring binder, and I'm using the natural light coming from behind. I will say that in this image, because the light coming from behind is so intense, I did use a reflector to reflect light back onto the moccasins. So if you can't tell, what I'm photographing are these moccasins. So this is using my phone. And this is the image that I captured, and you can see a little bit of my propping, like behind the moccasins, I stuffed them so they were dimensional. These were mine, so they are fairly old. So there's like threads coming out. They're in no way a perfect piece, because they are showing their age. But you can see like some of the plastic wrap coming out. In hindsight, I would have made sure that that wasn't showing. But someone asked, is it better to like take the full image and then zoom in on details? So I just did a little experiment last night and I zoomed in on some of the detail, and you can see over here in that the close-up of the flower. And it doesn't do a terrible job. It does kind of okay. Another thing I want to point out is the color of the beads in the blown up version isn't as accurate as what the beads are. So, or maybe it's more accurate. I don't know. I'd have to look at the moccasins again. I could probably go grab them and we can see. And so that was just me because I was playing around with editing as well, just to see like what it looks like to brighten up the image or to darken it down. But anyway, so this is the basic visual pictures of just a random setup. And what I'm setting up today is very similar. It's not super fancy. I'm using a plastic coffee table, or like a what are the food tray that you set, like, what are they called? Oh my God, I'm forgetting. Where TV tray. So I have a black TV tray. And then I also grabbed one of these. They're just a storage box that you can, that are meant to be used for putting stuff in, but it also makes a great background for photographing things. So I just grabbed this. And then I have things randomly put together. So I'm going to go ahead and just for right now, because that we're going to get into the editing process, I'm going to stop the screen share because I'm going to move my camera so that you can see my setup. Is it better to have model wear white or a dark top when photographing a necklace? So my recommendation, Melody, when you're working with models is make sure whatever you're styling them in, when you put your piece on, that it stands out. So for example, like this is one of my bling pens that I do. And so if I were to model this pen against this white, how it pops. Now, if I were to, I just unpacked from a trip, so if I were to do the white one, the bling sparkles, but it doesn't stand out as against that white. Well, my dress is off-white as much as the black, so that high contrast. So on the flip side of that, see if I've got one of my scarves closed. On the flip side of that, if I were to say have a scarf that has a lot of things going on, and then I were to put this or this, so you can see the difference. So this is with a pattern and a lot of things going on, and without. So this, even though this is very similar in color to the background, it still stands out way more than a distracting pattern. So when your models are coming to you, I would definitely recommend having them wear a neutral color that isn't going to contrast with what you're photographing or your work. So like white on off-white makes off-white look really dirty. So you'd want to have a white on white, or I would actually do white on black as opposed to, so here's, like I literally just use random stuff all the time. So here's a black notebook and then my white writing item, as opposed to black on the black. So we're trying to create this contrast so that our items are the showpiece, they're the center of attention. So that's a great question. Any other questions around that? I share a 12 by 12 office and it is chaos. No, and that's why I share my chaotic photo setup, because I did photos for my friend. She made a whole bunch of yarn baskets and she was making a book and she needed them photographed. I literally got a big giant sheet, I think it was white, draped it over my couch. Oh, models with tattoos. Anyway, I'll finish the story and I'll come back to that question, Lynn. So I draped the sheet over my couch and I photographed the baskets just on my couch. So, and they came out great. So as opposed to like having this big fancy studio space. So we can make things work, be creative, and don't be shy about trying something. I mean, I've used aluminum foil for a reflector because they didn't have one. An umbrella, like I had an umbrella in my car once and I needed a shot like light to filter. So I just opened the umbrella and held it up over the subject. So because as we'll get into the direction now since we're on the topic. So I grabbed one of my travel ring lights and I'm going to go ahead and turn my camera so that you're seeing, when I do this, you're not seeing my crazy living room. Blur my background. So now all you're seeing is a crazy window. So in this setup, I've got light coming in behind me from the window. I've got my two ring lights in front of me. And so if I were to turn my ring lights off, I'm just going to go ahead and so ring lights off. So you can see how now I look like I'm in the witness protection program. So the lights coming behind me are way more intense than the light in front of me. Now, if I were like, oh, I need to add some light to balance this out, if I do it from underneath, then we're in the scary campfire stories. Not very attractive. Nobody wants to look like this. If I do it from up above, we're getting a very, and this is like, if you try on clothes, this is very similar lighting from up above. Still not very attractive. My head is super bright, dark circles under my eyes. You can't see my eyes. However, if we just change the angle of the light, you can see, so this is just off to the side. So it's just right there, a 45-degree angle that changes everything. And, or if I were to take the light around the camera and look at it. Now, this is called beauty lighting. It flattens all the things out. It makes like the bags under our eyes less apparent, wrinkles less apparent, as opposed to like super harsh lighting that is at like this, again, unattractive angle. So where the light comes from can be really, really impactful. Some other things that we might think about when so this goes for both our models and if they're wearing our artwork, if they're modeling wearable art for us. So, you know, the angle of that light. So let's say like I've made a necklace out of my bling. I don't necessarily need the model's face in the image. I really want to make sure that the necklace or the bling is the highlight of the photo. So maybe not even having the model look at the camera, because we don't want it to look like a senior portrait or like we're taking photos of the person who just happens to be wearing our artwork. So now I'm going to do my best to plug my lights back in and get them back on. The other thing I want to show as well about lighting is I'm going to go ahead and shut this light off again. And I love poster board. So white poster board, just you can see, even just holding it up to my face like I just did, how much more light is reflecting back into my face. Without the board, you can almost make out some detail in my face. So how might you use that? You might like hold it up off to the side or behind the camera, or have the model hold it under their face so you can see. They might even hold two pieces. So all it is balancing the light. And this is how you can reflect light back into an item. For example, if you look at the sunflower here, it's got a whole bunch of light behind it. But maybe I want it to light up a little bit more in the front. So you can just reflect that light back in to the flower without. I mean, you could even see it here on the wall. If you look here, there's all this light coming from the back. But as soon as I bring up the poster board, look at how bright that got. So just with this 99-cent poster board, we've created a reflector. The other thing that it could do is I could just put, and I've done this before, just put it in the window and just block that light altogether. So dealing with models that have tattoos, that's a stylization question. For me personally, I love body art. I love tattoos. So I'm like, I want tattooed models. It can be distracting though, depending on what it is that you're having the models wear. So if you've designed a tank top and they're wearing a tank top and they've got a full sleeve, that can be a little bit distracting. So just be aware of distractions. So in post, you can edit those out. Another option is to use makeup to cover the tattoos. You know, and again, just that cultural awareness. If it's somebody's cultural tattoos, like some face tattoos or neck tattoos, you know, just be aware of, if we're like, I'm just going to cover it up, you know, being mindful of the models as well. All right. Any question? Bouncing light. I love to bounce light. I bounce light all day. Anytime I shoot with the flash, the light is bouncing off a wall or the ceiling or yeah, I love that. And lighting, honestly, Melanie, that's where most photographers need help, and like understanding how light can affect our images is so important. So even just like right now, I'm using a different camera. I'm not on my computer camera, which my computer does a pretty good job like adjusting skin tones. This is a pretty cool light. So I could change the temperature of my ring lights, which I haven't done this. So let's see how this works. So that makes it even more blue. And now we're a little bit warmer. So I changed the color of the light, and I can demonstrate that with this light. So you can actually see the change. So I'm just going to reflect it off the wall. I'll do my best. So you can see that's like a warmer tone. The walls turned a little bit yellowy. And now you can see it's a little bit more blue-green, which is a cooler tone. So if you want, like right now, the best option for me is to have my ring lights that are in front of me in that warmer tone, because it balances out the cool characteristics of the camera. So just another way to think about lighting. Sorry, I hope I didn't flash that in your eyes, but I'm going to use this light. I usually have a construction light, the one that I was talking about in class yesterday, and I couldn't find it. I brought it over to my yoga studio, because in the winter when my students would come, it's so dark, so that I could, and the owner of the studio doesn't have lighting outside. So I would turn that light on so they could at least see where they were walking into. And I went to grab it today and it wasn't there. So so I apologize that I don't have that one, but I normally have it. Okay. So I'm just gonna shut my camera off so you guys don't get seasick as I move it to a new position, so you can actually see the photo process. And I see some Q&As. How do I get accurate color when taking pics of abalone? Is it better to take pictures with or without model space when taking the picture of a necklace? That's a personal choice. So I'm gonna come back to your question, Christy. It's a personal choice about whether you include the model space or not. If it's a set and they're wearing earrings that match the necklace, you know, you could do a nice profile where their bodies kind of turned towards the camera to see the necklace, and the head's turned away so that you see the earrings. If it is just the necklace though, it wouldn't be terrible to just include the décolleté or jawline and the necklace. So getting accurate color when taking a picture of abalone, that is difficult because it changes color, right? Depending on the way the light is hitting it. And like I'll take it off. I have, why am I forgetting what this is called now? This ring, like depending on the angle of the light, people think it's a mood ring because it changes, but it's really just the angle of the light. So as the creator, labradorite, thank you. It's my protection stone. It's a big giant ring because it protects me. I wear it when I travel. And it also works as a like really good, stop saying that, ring. So really it's just, what is it? How do you want the item that you're photographing to appear? I bought some stones because I was learning how to do silversmithing, and I bought some stones, and in the images she used really bright light so you could see all the details in the stone. And being an inexperienced buyer of gemstones, I was expecting them to have that vibrancy and that color when they arrived, but they were black. They were gorgeous, and they're gorgeous when the sun hits them, but they look like onyx almost. And so our lapidary in the group, she might be able to, or they might be able to to tell me what it was that I bought. I have a list, but I don't remember off the top of my head. And so it's just, how do you want it to come across in the image? And like, what is it most, what is the lighting that most accurately demonstrates its most commonly viewed nature? I hope that makes sense, because that is a great question. One of the artists that was at the convening that I was at in Minneapolis last week, she uses a lot of abalone. She's a California artist, and all of her jewelry was like so beautiful. And I was looking at it from a photographer's eye, and all I could think was, oh my gosh, having to photograph that. I mean, you'd almost have to get 10 different photos to get the 10 different looks for that item. And yes, I would use natural light. Thank you, Marilyn, for for taking me out of my political answer for that question. Just because it's so multidimensional. Okay, so camera's going off. I'm going to move my camera, and then we're going to do a quick little demo of photos. And then we will I'm trying to figure out the best spot to put you guys. I'm going to put you guys. Let's see what angle you got there. Okay, so there we go. So this is my little photography little area that I've got set up. I've got all my items, like I said, gather the pieces. I've dusted everything except my little glass yoga statues. They were kind of a last minute add-on because I wanted to do some reflective items so you could see those reflective items. I hope you guys are okay not seeing my head. So the way that I would set this up is I would decide, okay, what do I want to photograph first? I've got a mala, which is a really neutral color, which would be nice on this black table. Or I could just start with photographing the yoga statues. And just, again, figuring out how I want to set them up. Do they need any props? I've got these like really pretty little hearts. So maybe, and hearts are kind of they're part of my logo, part of my life. So maybe I might want to add those in there. And then I might look at, okay, how do I want to light this? So I can decide if I want to use my reflector, which slid under my desk. So I could reflect light back into them from the window. Actually, I think I might move you guys a little bit closer so you can see. But most likely what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my ring light. So I'm just gonna turn this on. Because that's just gonna give me some good light. I'm gonna move you guys closer so you can actually see what's happening in the box. So if you were to look at this, you would see that like there's some really hot spots on the glass and it's not very attractive. So what I might do is just either, so with this, it's kind of fancy. I can turn the light down so that it's dimmer and it's just adding a little bit of light in instead of a lot. Now, let's say like it's still too intense and I want it to be even lighter. I have this that goes in my light box. And I could just filter the light a little bit more by just draping this over. And the thing about filtering the light is that it softens the light so that it's not so sharp and intense on the items. So that's like roughly how I might set it up. Like, so then the other thing that I'm gonna look at are shadows. Like, where are the shadows? Are they making any funky things? Do I need to adjust the light? Do I need to adjust the position? And then I will, whoopsie, stop. My desk is having a mind of its own. Okay, so then grabbing my camera, my phone, turning on the camera, and then just going in, and now this is where I start to frame and adjust and decide. So the other things you can take upside down and get a completely different look. I can turn this macro mode off so that I have more control. So the other thing to consider, what I might be using this for, this will most likely be a social media post. And so that's really the basics of what I would do in this situation. The other thing that I like about this, this light box is, let's say I'm gonna photograph earrings. Actually, this is not a light box. This is my makeshift light box. Is I can hang them right off the edge. These are not my earrings. These were made by another artist. So move these things out of the way. And then get them to be still. And then again, I would just look at the light and how it's hitting the items, and then get my camera and just start to frame it. The other thing that I would do possibly is put a string just right across. If you watched the YouTube video last night, I put jewelry wire across, and then you can just like hang the earrings from there and then edit the jewelry wire out. That's another great option. I think so. Just because this question was asked about balloon. So the other thing to consider, I mean, like these are a pair of earrings, and they look so different only because the shell. So something just happened, like I couldn't, because I'm doing such a close-up, I was moving back and forth. So I'm just gonna go around over here and grab my tripod. So this is a newer tripod to me. It has like really a lot of different angles that it can go at, and it takes a while to adjust, but it's so worth it. This is more for social media stuff, but I love the fact that it has just this base. This just lives in my home. It doesn't travel with me. So I just adjust the height so that it's where I want it for what I'm photographing. And I'm just gonna put my phone in the tripod. And then I'm gonna frame what I'm wanting to take a photo of. Bring this a little bit closer. So then I can take the photos. So I also have a remote trigger, so I can take photos without having to touch my camera, but I'm not using it right now. So the other thing is I can look at the different angles of the light. Okay. So we got a couple pictures of those. And then another setup is, so this is an old florist's, I believe it's for floral work, but it has these holes in it. And it just so happens to work pretty well to display my bling pens, which I can't find the rest of them now. Oh, there they are. So I could put those there, and I'm just gonna move the tripod. And I don't hate that lighting setup, so I'm just gonna leave it. I kind of like the way it's going through. Okay. So another prop that I love to use is, this is called a frog. I'll show it better when the lights on, and it just has these pokies on it, so it makes it great for, like, if I was doing these patches, I could set them up there. And then the other thing that it's great for is, let's say I need to reflect light back in, so I can just take my poster or foam board and stick it. And then it just becomes an extra set of hands to hold this. And then I can move different angles to get the lighting that I want. for the items. So many uses, and like, these are all things that I found at secondhand stores or vintage shopping. I'm gonna go ahead and switch. Switch back to my computer camera. Re-blur my background, turning my lights back on. Or at least one of them. And so I just wanted to, actually, I'm gonna let's do this. So this is the tripod, and each one of these sections moves. And then it has a spot for my iPad. And then it's meant to just sit on a tabletop or a desk. It's called a frog, a floral frog. And let me show you. So it has these pokey teeth. And then I just stuck it. The other thing is you can use it for, I could use it if I was doing an arrangement of things as well. But like I use it so much, especially for holding up my poster board. Great question. And then the other thing that I used was this guy, which is another floral item. I found it for like $3 at a vintage store, and I almost didn't buy it, but then I was like, this is perfect for putting all my pens in. So that came home with me as well. That was a really quick photo shoot. I didn't photograph everything because I really want to make sure that we have time to get into the different photography apps. The other things I want to talk about, like, I think these are the earrings I want to wear today, so I'm gonna put them on. Wait, I can't find my bigger ones. These were the only ones I could find. But let's say you're working with, okay, I gotta unblur my back. I please ignore my crazy background. So let's say, I mean, even like looking at this from here, you can see how crazy all the stuff going on in the background. You're not really focusing on me or the glasses I'm wearing or my earrings. So creating that, imagine that I'm not being a contortionist right now. Creating that plain background is going to give you, like, you can see this angle is perfect. The lighting's not perfect, but here you can tell. You could cut my face off and you could tell this is being worn by a human. You're getting a good idea of what those earrings look like. And as opposed to this, it's like chaos. What is that? So the simpler the backdrops that you can use, the more effective you will be at creating that focal point for your items. Let's see, I had something else to say about that and I totally lost it, but when I blur the background, they completely disappear. Any questions? No questions. Okay, perfect. So now we get to go into the fun bit, which is my favorite part. I just have to remember where I put my phone. So I'm going to go ahead and go back into the presentation because there are some tips here about taking photos. And honestly, like this, I'm really blessed to have these window ledges that I have in my space. I normally don't like to work on that low of a table. I'm not a spring chicken anymore, so bending over like that isn't my favorite space. But when I have those high ledges, like you see in the photos here, I can work standing up, especially when I'm doing smaller items. It just makes such a huge difference. I didn't talk about shadows. I alluded to it a little bit with the lighting. So depending on it, so if you do intend on taking photos and removing the background, you know, having the fewer amount of shadows is going to be super helpful in that process. Barb, I'm going to get to your question, but let me finish up this one about lighting. So one of the ways that we can eliminate shadows is have all the angles of light coming at the item. So I'll see if I can find the photo later. You can see the blue dot moving. I hope. If not, if you look at the picture on the left where the moccasins are in the light box. So what I would do to eliminate shadows is I will use this backlight from the window. I would put a light on this side, a light on this side, a light on the top, and a light in the front or a reflector. And then I would photograph, and then that's going to eliminate shadows. And just depending on the effect that you're going for will determine whether or not you want to have shadows. Shadows do help with creating dimension in your items. So using shadows to create dimension is really desirable in product photography, but you don't want it to be a distraction, because it becomes a point, like you can see here in this image, like all that backlight is casting a shadow towards the front of the moccasins. I ended up bouncing light back in, and that helped to bring light to the front of this image. But I use a cement curb with a sidewalk behind it. I use iCloud. I use cloud storage for my photos. You could get devices, USB devices that you can plug into your phone and load them on an external hard drive. I use an iPhone. I'm not very disappointed in the ability to organize my photos. You can create albums, but when you go and scroll, they all go into the same basket. Or you can search by album. So with my professional photography that isn't on my smartphone, I load my sessions by date, and let's see if I can find a good example of what that looks like. And I categorize by events. Let's see if I can pull this up. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to pull out of the screen share for a minute. And see if I can pull up this hard drive. Okay. So this is just a visual of what my hard drive looks like and how it's ordered. This one's a little bit more chaotic than they normally are. This is an older one, but the way that I organize them is by the date. So here's another tip: stay consistent. Because I started doing it by date, the session, and then the client. And then I was doing the client, the subject matter, and then the year. So, knowing how to keep those organized. And then what I do is I'll go in, let's say, Luis. So these images that you see here, these 100 EOS 5D, these are all raw images. They have not been edited. So they're all these CR2 format files. They're giant files. And then I pull them into Lightroom or Photoshop. And then I turn them into JPEGs. And these are the deliverables to the client. So I call that folder the edits, usually. For some reason, he didn't get an edited folder. And that way that helps with the workflow. So as soon as I finish a shoot, I will take the SD card, I'll grab my external hard drive, plug it into my computer, grab the SD card, I'll create the folder on the hard drive, on the external hard drive for my client. And then I'll drag all the photos over onto the hard drive. And then from there, I open up Lightroom and then I cull the images there. So any that are blurry or just are not great composition or will not be used, I don't import those. So I select all the ones that I'm going to import and I import them into Lightroom. I do as much editing in Lightroom as I can on the images that were selected by the client. And then any deep edits that I need to do, I pull into Photoshop. Rarely do I pull things into Photoshop unless I have a client that has, is for a photo session that has really, has a lot of acne, which I was doing a lot of senior portraits. So I was doing a lot of skin touch-ups. Just because Photoshop is a lot more steps and a lot more work, generally speaking, it just depends. You can do most everything in Lightroom if you're using Lightroom. All right. Yeah, stay with it. This one is an old one. I actually stick with, hiring coaches and taking different workshops, we learn different ways to do things. And then we try it. And then it's like, oh, I don't like this way. And so pick the one that works for you. I like client name, what it is, whether it's a senior session, a branding session, a wedding, a product session. And then I do the date and the month and year that I did the photos at the end. And for me, that is just an easier flow because they don't really do cataloging by chronological order necessarily. I remember my sessions by client more than I remember by the date that I did the session. And so that system works better for me. Other photographers that I talk to that are doing like 30, 40, 50 sessions in a month, they like that chronological order because they can reference that with their calendar and say, oh, this is the day that I did the magazine photo shoot. So I can go search my catalog for that specific date. So that's, again, it's preference. Awesome. I love the chat in the chat box. It's definitely like that is so helpful. And you guys are giving each other, what was that? Oh, I already answered that. What do you do with all the pics you take? Answered that. A segment curb with a sidewalk behind is a lot behind it a lot of times. I want to see some of your photos, Karina. I'm curious what that looks like and what you're photographing because that sounds pretty cool. Okay, so let's jump into editing. And so these are just some terms and tips. You don't have to memorize any of this. You're all artists and creators, so a lot of this is intuitive, but just keep in mind that when we're editing our product photos, it's meant to enhance their appeal while maintaining their true representation. If you take nothing else away from the editing session, that line, please log that line in your brains. When we're editing, we want to keep the true representation of what it is that we're selling or what we're portraying when we're looking at it as a catalog item for our Etsy shop, our eBay, our Shopify, or any of our e-commerce sites. When we're putting it on social media just to get attention, and it's not meant to be this item's for sale, you can get more creative. But when you're, think about when you're buying an item, like I was just looking at, was it Bethany Yellowtail or Lauren Goodday? I can't remember which designer. I was looking at some of her new releases, her new pieces. Beautiful, but I was looking for more angles, more images of what the item looks like, because one of the photos, she has the dress flared out like this, which it looks stunning. But I also want to see what it looks like when the model is just standing there like a normal person, because we're not all going to walk around like this wearing the item, right? So having multiple angles that give a true representation of the product. You want to strike a balance between making your products look attractive and ensuring they accurately represent what the customer will receive. Okay, so some things to consider. You want to use the right app. There's so many apps out there, just like there's so many different options for what angle to photo something or what light to use or what background to use. There's equal amount of options for photo editing apps. Choose the one that fits your needs. I use an app called Snapseed, and I'm going to show you that app. It's free and it works just perfect for things that I'm doing that I'm putting on social media. Adobe Lightroom is one of the most popular. Y'all shared a great one with me yesterday, and I've already forgotten what it is. So I'm going to ask someone to put that back into the chat so I can actually write it down this time. Visco, I've used that one as well. That one, I prefer that one more for adding filters. It could have been updated and changed to have more editing options. And Photoshop Express, that's a mobile option. Affinity, awesome. And Lynn is sharing, my photographer gives me large image files, which are nice because I can crop the image without it becoming pixelated. Yes, there are times I want to crop down to really focus on something like earrings without using all the model's face. But there are times when I want to use the entire image of the model. For my Etsy listing, I use different aspects of the same photo in the listing. Beautiful, beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that. And that's so true. Having those higher quality images makes it nice so that they don't get super pixelated. And thank you for sharing Affinity in the chat. And so use the right app. What's going to work for you? Crop and straighten. Use the cropping tool to eliminate any distracting elements around your product. Make sure your product is straight and centered. You want it to be the center of focus. Like Lynn shared in her chat, sometimes you want to just zoom in, like it might be a full body image, but you maybe just want to zoom in right on the area where the item is located. Adjusting brightness and contrast. You want to make sure that you're using the correct exposure by adjusting brightness and contrast. This can make your product pop and improve overall image quality. So I'm going to show you some extreme cases of adjusting brightness and contrast. We did a little bit of that with brightness yesterday with the stickers, but I want to show you in the editing process. And then color correction. This is where things can go really wrong really fast, because we want to make sure that we're getting accurate colors by adjusting the temperature and tint. This can be crucial for maintaining the true appearance of your product. And that was like somewhat demonstrated just by changing the color temperature of the light that I'm using for myself, like with just a pure white it made me look very cold and blue and stark. And then I adjusted it now to, I think I have it on the warm setting. But that temperature of light is going to affect the color of your image of your product. So like if you're looking at, what do I have that's colorful? We'll use this big carabiner. So just going through the different temperatures of light, it changes the color of the carabiner. This red carabiner looks orange, or it looks red, or it looks orange. So paying attention to that is really crucial. Using an item that is true to the color that you're using, so that when you're doing color correction, you can just take that as your this is my true red, this is my true white or gray. So sharpen, so we can apply a little bit of sharpening to enhance the details of our images if that is necessary and if it serves the purpose of our process. Be cautious to not overdo it. It can create unnatural looking results. It is really tempting to go wild with that sharpening tool. And all that is like, if I were to apply the sharpening tool to the moccasin picture, like all it would do is create sharper edges around the beadwork and the moccasins, but it also starts to look really unnatural and animated, and like, is that a real photo? And then removing any distractions. Use the healing brush tool. I'll show you how to do it in the free app Snapseed, and I'll also show you how to do it in Canva to remove any small blemishes or distractions on your products. So if you have a model who has a blemish that is noticeable, or any marks on the body or face that are taking away from your product, that can be a distraction. We don't want people looking at our models and like, I have like acne scars, and so anytime I do photos of myself, I have to do a lot of editing on my scars so that it doesn't distract from the overall message of the photo, because the message is not, oh, look at her acne scars, that's Roxanne. Selective editing. Many apps offer selective editing tools. Use them to apply edits only to specific areas of the photo, such as enhancing the product while leaving a background untouched. And again, I'm going to show you these things when we go into the editing apps. Using filters and presets. I would generally say, if your preset is meant to, like, if you know that you shoot in light that tends to cast a yellow shadow, and you create a filter that anytime that you shoot in that scenario, you apply that filter and it balances out it color corrects for you, that's okay. The filters that you want to make sure that you stay away from are the ones that overpower and make it look unrealistic, where it's not real. Always save a copy of the original photo before you start editing, which when I showed you how I pull the raw images in as an entirety, and then I take it through Photoshop or Lightroom, and then on the other end, I keep those raw files always. And then the edits are only what I've edited. So I can always go back to the original image if I wanted to or needed to for any reason. And I've never had to do that, but if I did, I definitely have it available. Consistency. If you're editing multiple product photos for a catalog or online store, strive for consistency in terms of lighting, color, and style. This creates a cohesive look. This is where, if you're photographing like most of the times fashion, when they're releasing a line, they have the complete line of clothing. They book a studio and they do a photo shoot. And that way everything is consistent. So they're not like, one day I'm going to shoot this, photograph this skirt, the next day I'm going to do the hat, and then maybe in a week I'll do the top, and then maybe the shoes. It's like a full, you're getting that way, you're getting consistent lighting, a consistent look and experience, especially when you're creating a catalog. The best tip as well is practice and experiment. We can read books and we can take workshops all day long, but the fastest and most effective way to learn how to do this is to practice. Experiment with different techniques and settings and find what works best for your products. Some of the things that I'm sharing today might not work for you. If you're doing etched glass or mirror, you know, using some of the lighting techniques and the backdrops and like having the chaotic background that I have in my space might not be the best option for shooting that type of work. But doing crochet or needlework, it might be perfect. So just, it's all about experimenting. And this is just about introducing you to new techniques and options. I use a polarizing lens on my DSLR camera, which I haven't shown you guys yet. And I mostly use it for protection of my lens. I was doing a family photo shoot and the kid kept like touching my lens. I get really up close and into like the photos with my clients, and the kiddos like get really comfortable around me. And this little boy just loves sticking his finger on my lens. And so instead of having to clean my actual glass, I was just able to pull off the polarizing filter, clean that, or just swap it out for a different one. So that's the only filter I use on my DSLR camera. I hope that answers your question. And I can show you. So this is my, let me make sure that you guys can see. So this is my DSLR. It has a hood. This is just the lens. This isn't the whole camera, but I can take that off. It has the lens cap. And then you can see the lens. And then on it is, oh, this polarizing filter. And all it does is it adds protection so dust doesn't get on the actual glass. And it just makes it easier for cleaning. And when I put it in my camera bag, it doesn't get as dusty and dirty. And this is my 24 to 70 lens. And I always put the back cover on. Again, dust and dirt when you're working with DSLRs are not your friends. That's where you can start to get those sun flares and light bursts in your images, which you can edit them out, but it's not very easy. Okay. Ruby, I hope that answers your question. All right. Perfect. We're doing good on time. All right. So let's, okay, before we get into the demo, I'm going to stop screen share, and I just want to take a second to just show you guys my DSLR setup. So I shoot Canon. I just over time have started to use this type of a hand strap. It just, for me, it secures my camera on. I also have, because this is pretty heavy. This is probably 8-ish pounds. And so carrying this around, and also I have a harness, a hip harness. This hooks into my hip harness. But having this wrist strap, just, I was used to use a neck strap, and it really physiologically was not working well with me. This lens also comes with a hood, but it just goes on the end like this. This is my baby. It took me 5 years or more of being a photographer to finally get this lens. And I only was able to get it because I won a grant. And it's the 70-200 lens, 2.8. So you could get a 70-200 lens. I think it's not a 2.8. The 2.8 just means that the f-stop it'll shoot sharp at a 2.8, which makes a brighter, more light can get in. Whereas the less expensive one, it only goes to like a 3.8 or 4 or 5.6. But it takes amazing portraits. You can get really cool detail. This is one that you would want to set up on a tripod if you're shooting really low shutter speeds, because you can get a lot of movement. Karina, if you want to, for your photo, I don't know. You could, is it on your phone, Karina, or is it on your computer? You can text it to me if it's on your phone. I just put my phone in the chat. What model Canon do I use? This is the there's the 5D Mark IV. The hood on the lens. So if sometimes when we're taking a photo and it's a really bright day, you're getting, hold on, I'm just gonna close these out. So when you're taking the photo, you've got, and it's a really bright day, you've got all this light coming into your lens, but what the hood does, and so you can get those sun flares or those light flares in your photo. What this does is it, and so when you're shooting on a bright day, the images tend to be low contrast or kind of like really soft focus. When you put the lens hood on, it's like what it does is it reduces the light that's hitting directly on the lens. So you can get a higher contrast image in bright days. And it also reduces sun flare. So it would be like for me, I use readers and everything is blurry right now. And my readers are my lens cap. Now it's like, oh, everything is sharp. And that's only on bright days. Overcast shooting or studio light, it's not as important. But so the whole idea, I'm gonna take this off, of the DSLR is it's interchangeable lenses. So I can take this lens off, and then it's just my camera body, and then put my other and then I can put my 70-200 lens on, and then I have a different lens. And oddly, this is a smaller size, but it's almost just as heavy as my 70-200. It's a pretty hefty lens. But yeah, so that's the DSLR, and you have like so many controls on the top. You can shoot in full manual. If you go program mode, aperture priority or AV, or shutter priority, which is TV. And then program is you have a little bit of control, but not really. The camera still does most of the stuff. So that's just the quick, what is a DSLR? What does it look like? How does it The whole DSLR conversation could be another couple days of class. Karina, if you want to text it, when I can use it as a demo for one of the photos for editing. Okay. All right. So any other questions? If not, I'm just gonna check and see where we're at here. All right, perfect. Excuse my silence. If I was podcasting, I'd be losing my audience. I'm also intentionally pausing and slowing down so that you hopefully are able to catch up and absorb a little bit more information. So going into the demo, there's several different programs or apps aside from the ones that are here on the screen. Oh man, what happened to this one? I'll have to look and see which one that is. So Photo Room is an AI app, and I'm going to show you all of these on my phone. I don't think I did not download PiscArt. I used to use it, but it's more for like making caricatures or it doesn't remove. I think that one removes backgrounds, but it just didn't seem really applicable to what you guys are doing for your product photography. And obviously Lightroom and Photoshop Express for the phone are great applications as well. And I just wanted to demonstrate, like, so you could see what the app icons look like. But for now, oh, this other one, I believe it's Photo Studio. Yes, I'll take it. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna stop this screen share. And I'm going to connect to my phone. I already downloaded it. Sorry, it's just connecting. Okay, perfect. So now you can see my phone. And I apologize, there's a little bit of a lag or a lot. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. So this app is Photo Studio, PiscArt, and Photo Room. These are different options for background removing. Allow access to all photos. So these are some of the images that we just played around with and experimented with. So I'm just gonna take, let's do this one. And it's just automatically says, do you want to remove the background? And I'm just gonna say yes. So it didn't do too bad of a job. It actually did a pretty decent job. So I can go add, and this is where I could come in here. And like, this is not very detailed, but I would get more. Oops. This is my first time using this app, so please be kind. But again, I am also being a rookie at this because I want you to also see that it's all about trial and error and figuring out what you like. Refine background. Actually, we're just gonna pretend like I got really detailed and I pulled the hooks back in. This is where having these hung on a wire would make it so much nicer. So this is where you can like change the background. So you can see like which background looks the best with the photo with your product. Like I'm kind of liking that one. It pulls those salmony colors out of the earrings. I hope it's as sharp. I hope it's not as blurry as it looks on my computer because it's actually a sharp image. So then we could go next. We could go save to photos, then it'll save to the camera roll, or we can do a new photo. So I'm going to just close out of that one. And then I'm going to show you PicsArt. So this one just automatically pulls up different images. I was playing around with this one, and this is an image. This is one that I was playing around with. It was really bad quality photo, but this in front of me, the red table, was actually a black table with a whole bunch of random junk on it. And this app has AI, which I'm going to show you in Canva as well. So we could go, let's see. I'm just scrolling through the options on the bottom. We could do remove the background and see what happens. I was just like to see how good it does. So it didn't do too bad. It actually, took out, for the most part, did a good job. And then we could do an artificial intelligence background, and we'll just do denim jacket, generate. So I'm gonna see if I had time and we had time, I would edit out the frog so that all you saw was the love sticker. And so I typed in denim jacket. So it's not great. A lot of people are really nervous about artificial intelligence, but you can see that it's not super fantastic. So this is one that you can also use. This has more creativity. So let's see, I'm going to do background remove. Let's see how it does with the pen. Okay, so perfect. Let's see. I'm going to restore the tip. Oops, my finger's not hitting it great. So imagine that was perfect. I'm going to erase what I just. So I'll just say, like, this is a free version, I believe, on this one. I don't think I'm in a trial. And so it's not doing terrible. I mean, you get what you pay for, right? So I'm just restoring some of the areas. So let's say that that's good. Now I can just add different backgrounds. to see which one I like the best. And these can be your brand colors or anything like that, or you could do an AI background where let's do a water generate scene. I love AI stuff. It's been like so fun to play with it. So there's my pen in water. It looks like a hose now. Anyway, so you get the idea. So that I'm showing this one mainly for the background remover option, and then photo room. Oh bugger, I thought I already did this. I'm gonna say small business, select photo. Okay, so let's do one of, let's go with this one. This one does a pretty decent job. I mean, look at that. Oh, I thought I already started my free trial. So then it'll show you, you can look at it with these different backgrounds. So this one actually does a pretty good job. So if you were going to get any of the ones that I just showed you, but you saw how much it costs a year, it was like $75 a year, is Photo Room seems to be the fastest at removing backgrounds. And then, ooh, this is awesome too. So it already has the formats for the different marketplaces that you might be selling, as well as social media. If you wanted it to be shown on a shirt, you can, do that. Go done. Oh, well, anyway, you get the idea. They have hat mock-ups, perfume. Concrete. So that's Photo Room. So I do want to show, so that folder is one that I just used, oops, for our demonstration for today to show you what we were doing. Davina, did you see which apps we were using? I'll pull them up on the screen again. The first one was Photo Studio, which was okay. And the next one was PixArt, which did a decent job as well. And Photo Room seemed to be the best one from what we were demonstrating. Awesome. So now I'm going to just go to my actual working folder, which is the one right above. Oh no. Sorry, I am not accounting for the lag that's happening. And I don't know why. I apologize. Actually, I'm gonna try. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask those now. I'm gonna try to just connect my phone directly without using the AirPlay so that maybe it'll be faster than than doing it the way I was just doing it. Sometimes we have to outsmart our technology sometimes. Okay. So here we go. Boom. Okay, I feel like this is going to be a lot faster. Yes, it's already faster. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead, if you like over here, that app, that folder, that's the one I use just for demonstrating apps that are options. And then this is the one that I actually work from. So Canva, I use Camera Raw. This is the app I demonstrated yesterday. Splice is a video editing app that I use. I really like it. It does cost quite a bit. Oh no, I don't want to leave a review. It always asks me. But I have all these different projects that I've created or I'm working on. But Snapseed really is the one that I want to show. So Snapseed is this one with the green leaf. It is free. And so it says tap anywhere to open a photo. I'm just going to tap on the plus sign, and then it pulls up all of the images. The thing about this app, it is free. It doesn't remove backgrounds. It doesn't do any of that fancy stuff. But what it can do, I'm trying to get to, we'll just use what we already took. So let's say this is the one we like. And we just, so you can see it has different options on the bottom. These are pre-selected filters. So we could, use that, the portrait filter, or the smooth, or the curves, or accentuate, but I don't want to use any of those filters. I want to go ahead and so I closed out of that. And at the very bottom, it says looks, tools, and export. So I want to go to tools. And this is where you can do some of the basic edits that we were talking about in the other class. So the first thing I want to do is I want to crop. So I hit on the crop tool, and I'm just going to make it so that the person in the center is right in the center. And I want that because this is going to be a social media post. I want that space at the top. Otherwise, I could probably crop it in really tight like that. But I want this space up top so I can put my logo or maybe some text. So I'm just going to hit the checkbox on the bottom right corner. And all that does is it saves what I did. Let's say you do this and you crop it and you hate the crop. You can always go to the very top and click on that undo button, which is it looks like a stack of papers with an arrow going backwards. So let's say I wanted to undo that. I could undo and then it's back to normal. Or I could hit redo and then it goes back to the crop. The other thing, if you're like, I'm not sure if I like this or the other version, just hold your finger on the photo. So I'm just placing my finger on the photo and then lifting it off. So it's giving you that before and after. So I'm like, okay, I do like this. I'm going to go back to the tools and I'm going to try to answer questions as we're going along. I have seen advertising for Canva. I'm going to show you all the Canva. Is it cost effective? It is. And would you consider, yes, cost effective for a small business owner? 100%. And I'll show you all the reasons why. So I'm going to go to the tune image because this is where we can adjust all those line items that we were talking about previously, where we can adjust the brightness. You can see at the very top, it says brightness. I just place my finger on the photo, slide side to side. So if I want to increase brightness, I slide this way. You can see all the dust because I didn't dust my girls first. Or I can slide it the other way to decrease the brightness. But I feel like we're pretty good right around there. So then I'm just going to swipe my finger up. So then it's going to bring us to contrast. So again, I like to show extremes. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to swipe all the way to the right and just watch how it's changing the contrast. You're losing, like it's a lot of blacks are coming in. The reds are getting sharp or like more intense. Like you can even look at the fabric in the background and see how the contrast is changing as they go the opposite direction. So you can see it looks, remember when I got my lens really dirty yesterday? I feel like this, some people like this look. And if that's your style, that's your style, but it just is hard to look at. So we want to be really careful with how we're adjusting. So again, even that is like, it's a look. Is it a good look? I don't know. But if that's what you're going for, it's a great look. But if it isn't, then where can you find that balance and contrast? And this is where you can explore and experiment with contrast and learn what it does to your images. That's what, like when I first started learning these concepts, my instructor, my coach was like, go into Lightroom and do all the extremes, because that's the best way to learn. Okay, so contrast, I'm just gonna pop it up just a smidge. And then we're gonna go to saturation. This is where it can all go not okay, because look at the red. So increasing saturation. And then the opposite direction is basically going black and white. So if I left it there, it's kind of a cool image. I kind of like the way it looks, but it isn't a true representation of what those glass hearts look like. So this would not be a great product photo. If I wanted that sort of feel for my Instagram or my Facebook or my TikTok, then I might keep it there. But I'm just going to keep it right where it's at because that's pretty close to what those look like. And then the next is ambiance. So ambiance, this is the light. I kind of dig that. That makes it feel like those items are like coming off and away from the background. Let's see if I go the opposite direction. Whole different look. So again, it's just, finding that space, that in between where it's what you want creatively, and also what is an accurate representation. So the next is highlights. So this is going to affect all the hot spots in the image, which are all those white flashes. So highlights, this, I went all the way to the right. You can see it got brighter. If I go all the way to the left, the highlights got a little dimmer, which this can be a great thing, or it can take away from the image. This sometimes works really nice for reflective work to reduce the highlights to pull more detail. In this image's case, it didn't really do much for it. The next is shadows. Someone was asking about shadows. Like you can see there's a little bit of shadow. I feel like if I was actually photographing this in real time for a project, I would pull the little figurines further away from the background and like allow their bodies to create a really cool shadow cast in the background, just because from an artistic perspective and it just seems like it would be really nice. So shadows, I can reduce shadows, see how light the shadow in the back got, but also the statues, the figurines turned kind of like a cobalty hematite, is it hematite looking instead of the black glass that they are. So we have to be careful with these editing things. And if I increase the shadows, so the app is interpreting the shadow, the statues, the dark colored glass as shadow. So it isn't just affecting the shadows, it's also affecting the items. So just keep that in mind. Oh, yeah, we're running out of time. And then so warmth, this is just like what I demonstrated with the different temperatures of light. Oh, excuse my. I forgot to put it on do not disturb. So, and then going the other way, this is just blues are cool. So just finding, again, that balance, I feel like it's pretty balanced where it's at. And then I just hit the checkbox. So let's say I'm like, I want to see before, after, before, after. Do I like the way it looks now compared to the original photo? Sometimes I'll do a whole edit and I'll go back to the original photo and that's the one that I'll use. So another tool is the perspective tool. This one is really good if you're doing photos of 2D art and you notice that the dimensions are not square or rectangle anymore. You can rotate to make it like, I'm going to rotate it so that that little line on the bottom is more balanced. And then you can also do a tilt. So you can tilt it up or down. This is where you could change the perspective. So notice how, let's say you took a photo of your 2D print and it looks like this. This is where you could use this tilt to correct it. But keep in mind that if there is a lot of detail on the edges of the image, like in this instance, it doesn't really affect it because the canvas is just that gray background. But imagine if there were flowers or some sort of geometric pattern, that automatic fill-in wouldn't be as beautiful. So just keeping that in mind when we're using this tool. If you don't want to use that, you can and it can go the other way as well. So it just completely changes the image. I'm not going to save that. I'm going to want it to go back to the original. The other is the brush. So I can do dodge and burn. I can do exposure. I could do temperature and saturation. So let's say I want to just decrease the exposure of specific areas. So I'm just doing 2 fingers and opening it up to get closer in. And I just want to see what it looks like if and all I'm doing is rubbing my finger over the area, hoping that those so this is where I can just add exposure to the figurines without affecting the background a bunch. And I'm not being perfect, just demonstrating. So what I did is on the bottom right hand, you can see the little eye. If you want the red to show up, so you can see where you've placed that you can go there. So I'm just gonna say keep it before, after. It lost some dimension, so I'm actually gonna undo that. I actually like this better. So I would probably go in and add a little bit of that and for more detail. But another tool is the healing tool. And this one works okay. And where I'm going to go is right here. My eye keeps coming to this little area up here, where that little snag in the fabric is. So I'm just going to tap my finger on it and then it just heals it. So if you had a model and you were fixing blemishes, like let's see what it does here. I don't like that. So I can go in even tighter. There we go. So anyway, okay, let's say I went through and I did all of them, but you can see how that looks without those hot spots on it. Do you like it? Don't you like it? If you like it, undo it and then they're back. If you don't like it and you want it to stay, then you can see what it looks like before and after. So it's up to you to decide, does this truly help accentuate my item? So should I leave it? Or does it make it, does that make it look better with those highlights? Or does it make it look better to have it flat like that? So that was the healing tool. And there's a bunch of other things. You could add text, you can add frames, you could do lens blur, you could turn it into black and white. Let's say you want to do grunge. So you could do a grunge look and change it. Again, I would not do this if you were putting it in your catalog to sell it. But so there's a ton of different options. Okay, I got issues. Okay, so then to export it, you decide if you want to just export and create a copy with permanent changes, or save a copy, or save the actual image so you don't have the original anymore. I would say save a copy. And then it should go to, if I go to photos, my edits there. And then the original is over here somewhere. So I also just want to point out too, like the different angles of like, for these photos, I turned my camera upside down so that the lens angle was like different compared to these where the camera was up at the top and the way that it was looking down was different. So those are my favorite editing. That's my favorite, like quick go-to edit platform is Snapseed. Okay, so we've got 7 minutes. I really want to show you guys Canva, so I'm going to do a quick demo, and please keep in mind that I have a paid version of Canva. So what you're seeing is the paid version, and then I'll get to all the questions. Photo Room, and it works wonders. Photo Room, I haven't used, maybe I have used Photo. Oh, no, I haven't used Photo Room, or have I? Yeah, that's the one that I like. Okay, so Canva, here we go. Great stuff in the chat if you have not been paying attention to the chat. Okay, so this is Canva. Yay, Canva. So if I go back home, this is what it looks like. These are a bunch of different projects that I've done. So they can be saved. You can share projects with people. It's awesome. The other thing, excuse my hiccups. The other thing I love is that you can create different things. Most of the time we're creating social media posts, but if you're creating a presentation, video, or you're doing print products, or you're designing a website, those are all here. First thing I want to show is really cool AI thing. So I'm just going to open up a document. I am going to go here to the plus sign, and I'm going to click on Magic Write, and I'm going to say top 5 tips for photographing artwork. And then I'm going to hit generate. So Canva, the paid version, has AI. So it wrote me a nice little thing. I love natural light. That's my favorite. So yay, I agree 100%. Use a tripod, use a high resolution camera, frame the artwork properly, edit the photo. All the things that we've just talked about. I didn't get a lot into natural light. Most photographers start with natural light. So using artificial light seems to be like a little bit of a barrier. So I talk more about artificial light. But anyway, so boom, this could become social media content for you. And you could do a rewrite of this. You could add on to it. Let's say you want to, let's highlight it. And then we're going to go here. And we want it to be more of a summarization. So then it summarizes it. So it takes it from this longer format to a shorter one. But the thing I love about it is it keeps the original so that you can go. Okay, so that's one thing. But the main thing that I want to show, I'm going to go to a social media presentation. This is going to be the fast, down and dirty Facebook square or Instagram square post. I'm just going to grab an image from my uploads. I don't know what I have in here. So I'm going to use this one. It's me. Hey, I'm the problem. It's me. So I'm going to just expand it out. I'm going to go edit photo. I'm going to do background remover. Background remove. So let's say that looks good, but I need the coffee cup back. Oops, sorry, restore. Coffee cup. And there we go. Well, let's pretend like I did a more detailed job there. So okay, perfect. So I'm gonna go back here, and then I'm gonna say magic edit, and I'm gonna say continue. Red shoes. Generate. It didn't work great. There we go. Now I have 3 feet, but hey, I got red shoes on now. So you can change. I've used it where, like, if you have a platter or something, or an open table, you can say like put a bouquet of flowers on the table, and it looks really nice. The other thing is this magic eraser. So let's say I want to erase. I needed to cover the whole car. We'll see how it does. So this is where you can remove distractions. It takes a minute. It's not perfect. I mean, we might even just go as far as just removing. Oh, dang it. I'm going to erase part of my head. I'm being lazy. Oh, it didn't do a terrible job. So I can increase the brush size, which, I clicked and released. But you get the idea. So this is how you can, like, change the background, remove elements from your image that are distracting, and just make it like more about the subject matter. There's probably better images I could use. There's also different effects that you can apply. You can make the same adjustments here with temperature, tint, brightness, darkness, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, more intense, less intense, blacks, more intense, less intense. You could change the vibrancy of the colors, saturation of the colors, sharpness. This is where we can adjust sharpness. Now it looks like a really blurry photo or really sharp, and you can see it starts to get a little crackly. But that's because it's sharpening some wrong areas. You can change the clarity. You can add a vignette, white or black. But anyway, so those are some of the cool things you can do with Canva. There's so much more, but I just wanted to give you the basic highlight of what you can do with photo editing as well. It is not perfect yet, but it's definitely getting there. I personally, Davina, when I take photos, if I can use natural light, I 100% always go for natural light. The free Canva does not do the background removal. And the additional colors like I demonstrated. I don't know about the additional colors in the free version, but Canva is like $120 a year. If you're a student, I believe there's a free version. Nonprofits, that you get it for no cost as well. But I pay that $120 a year, and it pays for itself in the first month because they create social media content, flyers. I'm now creating my presentations here. So because I was able to eliminate my full subscription to Adobe Suite. So that has saved me almost $40 a month. So in 2 months' time, just by eliminating it has paid for itself. So I'm a little bit over. I'm willing to stay if anyone has questions. Otherwise, you all are free to go. Let me just double check back. I've seen advertising for Canva. I would say yes, Ruby, definitely. And definitely worth it for a business owner with a paid version. You can use it on your phone and your desktop. You pay for one subscription and you get to use it on your phone or your desktop. I would say that using it on the desktop or iPad is much easier than the phone, but it definitely in a pinch. The other day I made a post from my phone using the Canva app. So it definitely helps. What's up?
Hey, long time no see, lady.
Yeah, look at the new work behind you.
Oh yeah, I'm working on a children's book right now. Okay, well, Lynn had to run to the post office, so she asked if I could help end it. Don't forget to go over your list of things to do, everyone. And thank you, Roxanne, for always giving such great information, always. And I assume they recorded this, so they'll be handing this out, right?
Yes.
Okay, I say handing it out. They're going
Emailing
to email it to everyone. So, and if you read your emails, then you'll see that we had initially said I was going to do weekly check-in calls with everybody, but we have so many people and everybody put completely different times of the day that they wanted their phone calls. And I am running so much, there's just no way I could do it all. So Instead, if you guys have any questions, if you need to discuss anything to do with even today's episode or session, or anything to do with your shop or what's going on with the classes, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You should all have my phone number. You've got our email addresses. So yeah, other than that, everyone have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week, I guess. Is it next week? Let me look at my calendar. I don't know what I'd do without my Google Calendar, you guys. Are we off next week? I don't have anything for, that's what I wanted to talk to Lynn to, and she had to go to the post office. So I assume next Friday. All right. So are we done?
We are. I don't see any more questions, so.
No, I don't either. In the Q&A
Is
did
Canva,
you answer the one? Yeah.
is Canva as powerful as Adobe? No. Absolutely not. But if you're like, what I'd found is, even though I had the whole suite, the Creative Cloud, I was still not using it because it was just way easier and more time effective for me to go into Canva and create what it would take me in Illustrator to, a lot of steps, and for what I needed, it was just too much. On the photo editing side, I definitely use Creative Cloud just for the Lightroom and Photoshop, because until I try Affinity, I don't know that any other editing app that is good as Lightroom and Photoshop. But it definitely is not as powerful, but it's definitely reflected in the price, because the Creative Cloud is like $65 to $75 a month for the whole suite of applications, whereas Canva is $120 for the year. So again,
I wish I could just do Canva instead. I have to have the Photoshop, so.
yeah, well, and I still pay for Photoshop and Lightroom, but that's like $9.99 a month.
Yeah, I have to have Illustrator and Photoshop and Adobe, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, see, that's, if you
Yeah.
have to use Illustrator,
I think
then
mine's like 56 a month.
yeah.
Crazy.
When I was doing a lot of video editing, having Elements was great, but now I'm not doing a lot of professional edits, and I've figured out how to use the Apple iMovie app for my purposes. It's great. Now,
Yeah.
if I started to get high-end gigs where I needed to use the Elements, the video editing program, I'd go back to Elements, but I don't.
I like the, I've got a Google Pixel now, and I really like the editing tools that are just in the phone without any apps. So
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
that's
But then I
awesome.
go back and forth with Snapseed. I really like Snapseed.
It's not,
Okay.
if for a free app, it's fantastic.
Right. Okay, well, I guess we're gonna leave it there then. Everyone have a great weekend. Take care. Good to see you, Roxanne.
You too. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.